The very common saying, "It's like learning to ride a bike," suggests that there are skills out there that once learned, you don't relearn. And for me, that is misleading. It ignores the beautiful, rich, messy context of our lives. And if you apply it to certain fears that we have, it might be limiting for us in how we approach the world and the things that are possible for us. If you're new to my channel, my name is Carrie, and I'm here sharing the systems, the mindsets, the tools that I use on my journey to navigate this world. A light switched on for me a couple of years ago that more is possible for me than I ever believed for myself. I have achieved more in my short 28, almost 29 years than I thought that I could. But that was an accident. I didn't do it on purpose. What I hope for you watching this and engaging with me in my content is that a light switches on for you, that you realize more is possible for you than you believe for yourself. In this particular video, I want to unpack a skill that apparently I couldn't learn twice, but I actually did. And it completely enriched my life. It is about riding a bike. And this is not a metaphorical bike, it is a physical bike. When I was a child, I learned to ride a bike. I don't remember when I learned. I just know my dad probably taught me with some training wheels. But I have a visceral experience when I was 11 or 12. I know my friends and I would be cycling all around our neighborhood. We went to an abandoned bridge. We would hang out there. It was relatively safe until a moment where my mom sat me down and she explained to me that there was a rapist on the loose, which is not an uncommon thing in South Africa. It was actually unfortunately a reoccurring experience that a series of women would get raped in a specific area. So she sat me down and she told me that it wasn't safe for me to be out with my friends anymore. And that was a common thread throughout my childhood. My parents tried to protect me from the quite dangerous world around me, which was within their remit 100%. But I internalized this as a limitation of my independence and my freedom. So young Carrie learned that it wasn't safe to go out into the world. And this was something that continued with me into my later years. So when I was a 15 to 18-year-old, I was craving independence. And I have such a distinct memory of yearning to cycle to school. It was through this beautiful forest. It was would have been a 15-minute or 20-minute cycle to school. And it took, 5 minutes to drive there in a car. So I didn't even ask my parents about this because I knew they would say no, and I knew it was probably too dangerous. And eventually, I got a car when I was 18, and I know one of our bikes got stolen from the garage. The other one we gave away to a gardener, and the final one is rusting in the garage still today. I got a car, so 4 cars to 4 people. And as an automotive design strategist these days, I can tell you that is not the sustainable choice. And I lost the skill. Fast forward to when I was about 23, I moved to Germany for an internship with Adidas. It was a 6-month internship. 5 months in, I remember cycling one of my friend's bikes around the city. In my mind, I was thinking, why the hell did I not cycle more? Why was I walking everywhere? My feet were always sore. I was moving through shoes really quickly. A month later, I went home to South Africa. I started applying for more jobs overseas because I finally had that taste of independence I always wanted, and I wanted it again. Then COVID hit, blah, blah, blah. Fast forward, and I moved to Sweden with the global graduate program at Volvo Cars. 3 years into that experience, 3 years, I could have been cycling the whole time. I finally got a bike. My plan was to commute to work. I got this bike, I subscribed to it. It was a beast of a bike. It was an electric bike because I wanted to kind of take a small step into the window of what cycling was. But damn, I was scared. I had a deeper fear. Not just the fear of not knowing how to navigate to work. If I couldn't read my map because I needed 2 hands on the bike at all times, what were the signals? I saw people cycling all the time, signaling one way. There were right-of-ways. There were just things I didn't understand about how to physically cycle as a commuter. And I'd almost been hit so many times by bicyclists. I knew how quickly and how agile they had to be to actually avoid people when they did silly things and like stepping into a bike lane, which I 100% have done. And would Google actually be able to tell me where there were different roadworks that blocked my cycling journey? Because Gothenburg, the city that I live in, is always under construction. It's like an upheaval right now. All of these things in hindsight seem really silly, but at the time, I know that I almost gave this subscription bike back because I was leasing it every month. And by pure determination to try to at least go once or twice to work, I ended up asking one of my friends for help who lived in the same area as me, and he cycled to the same workplace as me, which was pure luck. It also happened that he was Dutch, so he knew how to cycle. It's part of the culture. The world knows that the Dutch, they know how to cycle. So he took me to work the first few times. So as my friend was cycling with me, I watched him. I watched how he signaled. I watched how he wove. I watched how he went past different types of uncertain people. And I learned the new skill. And he protected me like a little child. If the street was here, he would be cycling and I would cycle here, and he would kind of protect me from the other cyclists or from the cars, anything that could get in my way. And he made sure that I got to work once or twice safely. He showed me the way, how to navigate some shortcuts. It was amazing. But eventually he had to stop cycling with me because I was too slow, and I found my own way there. To be honest, I was anxious. More anxious than just cycling, anxiety spiking of not being safe, not knowing what was going to happen, all of the same feelings that I had when I was a child, because I knew at the time South Africa wasn't safe and this was the thing I desperately wanted to do anyway. Eventually, after realizing that the context I was in was now safe, that nothing really was going to happen to me, although to be honest, I have been hit almost every second or third commute trip by a car. Other than that, it's pretty safe. Slowly, the feeling of anxiety faded as I relearned the skill of cycling in this new context, in the context of Sweden, which is such a vastly different world to South Africa. What came back to me was this incredible feeling of self-empowerment. I get so much joy from cycling now, from seeing the beautiful views, from not being stuck in a stuffy bus with people in my space, potentially catching whatever seasonal disease. And now I cycle in every single type of weather. I'm disappointed when it's snowing so heavily that I cannot cycle to work. It is my pure joy to cycle now. You might ask, why did I start to cycle in the first place? YouTube. So when I started doing YouTube, I realized that I had to up my activity daily because I was going to be doing less planned physical activity. I had to compromise and give 1 or 2 nights a week to YouTube, scripting, researching, filming, editing, all of that. Quite fun stuff, actually, which I'm really looking forward to getting back into. So I incorporated activity in another way. I took out my commute where I was stationary and inserted a commute where I was active, where I was also interacting with nature and getting sunlight and fresh air. And that has been amazing for me as I cycle through a forest every single day now on my way to work, which is coming full circle back to the story of my childhood, where that's all I wanted to do. That's how I wanted to get some independence as a young adult, which was not possible for me then, but it is so possible for me now. And to unpack the layers of this video, and what I hope you take away from it, is that the limiting belief that we had in one context, we can now try in a different context and see what is unlocked. I'm not saying it will always be different, but I am saying that in new contexts, you can try things in the past you thought weren't possible for you and see what happens to you. What has happened to me here is I've gained so much empowerment, independence, joy, a feeling that I can do whatever I want, whenever I want. I'm not on anyone else's schedule. That is an incredible feeling that I've gained. Another takeaway, I'm just going to layer them on now, is something new made me do something different. So what new can you introduce in your life in one place that can make you do something different in another place? And again, if you picked up the nugget, in the situation, the story, I asked a friend for help. So what in your life can you think of now where you can ask a friend that you trust that has the skill set that maybe you don't to help unlock something in you? People out there in our networks have what we might not have, and we need to be brave enough and vulnerable enough to rely on them, ask for help. That also helps us form stronger bonds with people and helps us connect, which is something that I also just listened to in a podcast between Trevor Noah and Simon Sinek that made me think about making this video. The final thing that I want to leave you on is it took quite a bit of time for the anxiety of my childhood and all these other things I was using to mask that feeling to fade. It took a lot of time. It took months for me to feel really confident and empowered on the bike, but I kept going because here I had to learn how to handle hundreds of different situations. When a car almost comes at me like this, or a pedestrian walks in the road like that, or another bike comes past me in that way, I had to learn how to process all of these situations before I became really comfortable and low anxiety with this new skill. So that's me closing this video, and it is an example of where I'm taking this channel, what I want it to be. We can rely on the people around us to help us. We can form ourselves good systems. We can put strategies in place to do that. And if we can do this across the different domains of our lives, we can get to a place where we are living the life that we dream for ourselves, that we may not have even thought was possible for ourselves. That's what I want for me, and that's what I want for you. So I hope that you'll be with me on this journey. I will see you in the next video.